Well, hello, I am Gabriel Saint, an artist, director working out of Hollywood, California. Today we're going to be ranking popular art. If you're into art, you're into music, you're into film, if you're into aesthetics, go ahead and like and subscribe. The first piece of art we'll be taking a look at today is the Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa, she's a classic, painted by Leonardo da Vinci. This is almost like a journal piece for Leonardo. This is a painting that he carried around with him and painted on every day, almost like therapy. You know, the fact that she doesn't have eyebrows is, I think is probably because he was painting her face over and over. Probably paint it over and start over, paint her eyebrows off and put them back in. In the state of the painting is, she just wasn't finished. Her hands are so beautiful. The hands are almost finished compared to the face. The hands are so delicate and gorgeous. He's using this technique called sfumato, which is kind of popular because of this picture where you lay down layers of glaze, like a translucent color. And on this one it looks like he's doing like a warm gray over the whole background, and the further back you want to push something, the less transparent the glaze is. So he's used that glaze to push everything into the background except for her face and her hands. Everything else is kind of behind a little glaze, and what it does is it brings her face and her hands and everything forward, and it pushes all the things that have been glazed, it pushes them backwards. Now, this is a beautiful painting, and it has this portrait mode vibe that we all have on our phones right now, and you know, that popularized framing, that modern visual of a image in focus and the background out of focus seems very obvious to us. I mean, we can all do it with our phones, and we could do it with DSLR cameras and nice lenses, but this is one of the most popular images where that philosophy of a portrait mode, if you will, is very apparent. And the eyebrows, you know, the lack of eyebrows, that's very modern, that's very fashionable, that's very it's very Mia Goth, you know, which is pretty cool in my book. I saw Mia Goth recently at a movie premiere. She was a very pleasant person. Has a very distinct voice. So this Mona Lisa, although it is one of the more popular, one of the reasons it's more popular than most paintings, especially at its scale, it's a very small painting. Because number one, Leonardo carried it around with him. It's a very personal piece to him. And number two, it was stolen from the Louvre in, I think, 1911. And that really skyrocketed this painting into popularity. So let's go ahead and put this bad girl A tier. You shouldn't rank art, by the way. This is you shouldn't be ranking art. Okay, so next up, let's do Andy Warhol's Campbell Soup Can. This Campbell Soup Can, I think, is a really cool concept of just kind of like pulling something out of life and putting it on a canvas and hold on, we're back. You know, the audacity of like not trying to find a beautiful image or not to find the perfect composition, but just to find something mundane. I also heard that Andy Warhol actually just loved Campbell's soup. I heard that dude just ate cans and cans of Campbell's soup. He was a very eclectic person, and you know, the fact that this really is something personal to him, and that Jordan Peele once said that if you can find an idea or a subject that's so personal and unique to you that no one else could possibly understand, well, that's when you found a message that everybody will understand. And ironically enough, this Campbell Soup Can kind of does that. I mean, every one of our cabinets has had one of these Campbell Soup Cans in it. Andy painted this picture, I think, in the 60s. And I believe he was doing most of these paintings using screen printing. Yeah, I believe he was using screen printing, which allowed him to mass produce artwork. You know, a lot of people, you know, don't love the idea of Andy Warhol not taking his time and his moments, taking his time and putting all his focus into these paintings. When I'm just getting my phone out to look at some notes. You know, it did offend some artists at the time, and it still offends some modern artists today, that Andy Warhol didn't spend, you know, all his time and focus and energy on some of these paintings, that they were just screen prints, that maybe he had an apprentice pull the paint on. You know, he could do 100 of these in one sitting, because it was like printing a t-shirt. You know, it was almost like the invention of screen printing really allowed Andy Warhol's art to prosper. You know, the idea of just looking at something and making it art, and not having to necessarily craft the idea from whole cloth, but pulling the idea out of something we all kind of collectively share. It's very beautiful. I once had a conversation with an artist named Jesse Draxler, who does this very, what seems like in hindsight, very obvious collage art. And he would take photos out of magazines and cut them up and put them back together and make these really like minimalist effort, but like really profound looking pieces. And I asked him, like, how do you get over that feeling of like you're cheating, because you're just cutting out pictures of magazines, you're using other people's artwork. And Jesse told me, if I don't feel like I'm cheating, I'm not sure I'm making art. And it just kind of blew my mind for him to actively try to break the rules of traditionalist thinking. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to put the Andy Warhol can also in A tier. Because, man, beautiful painting, not mind-blowing techniques. And maybe before this, a lot of the art was very high art, very hoity-toity. And after this, you know, Andy Warhol really dumbed down what fine art could be. He really brought the philosophy down to a mundane thought process that some people love and some people hate. Just the idea of it not being something beautiful, something focused, something with a large philosophy behind it, is kind of why this piece is popular. A tier. Okay, next, let's look at Girl with a Pearl Earring. Let's take a look at Girl with a Pearl Earring. This painting, oh, you know what I want to go back and say, by the way? The Mona Lisa, by the way, was painted in 1506. He painted on it for like 10 years, between 1506 and 1517. Think about how long ago that was. And he painted on this small painting. That painting is maybe this big. He painted on that painting for over 10 years. Hundreds of years ago. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. The Campbell soup can was painted in 1962. That's 400 years after the Mona Lisa. 400 years after the Mona Lisa. That's crazy. Okay, so now we're looking at Girl with a Pearl Earring. You know, this is a beautiful painting too. I love the use of shadows and light. Like the blocking is really nice. The looseness of it. The fact that she has no eyebrows is also very, very modern, very fashionable, very Mia Goth, just like the Mona Lisa. In fact, some people call this painting something like the Mona Lisa of the North. This painting was painted in 1665, and even though this is a very beautiful painting, and I know there's a film with Scarlett Johansson, I haven't seen it, but we do love the beautiful, talented Scarlett Johansson. But I gotta be honest, this picture, we already got the Mona Lisa. This is almost like a poor man's Mona Lisa, but it's beautiful. This painting was by Johannes Vermeer. How do you pronounce Johannes Vermeer, the guy who painted Girl with the Pearl Earring? How do you pronounce the name of the guy who painted the Girl with the Pearl Earring?
The name of the artist who painted Girl with a Pearl Earring is pronounced Johannes Vermeer. Johannes Vermeer.
Thank you. Well, we're gonna put this bad bitch C tier. You know, they can't all be A tier. Can't all be A tier. That's just the rules of ranking art. By the way, ranking art is a terrible idea. you should not do this. Art is all wonderful for different reasons. All right, moving on. Let's look at Starry Night. Look at this. This is a good painting. You know, seeing almost every single stroke in this painting really makes it warm and organic. It really allows me to kind of feel maybe the artist's intention more than a painting that's perfected, more than a painting that, you know, Andy Warhol screen printed. When I can see every single stroke, you could almost go through and count the strokes, the amount of economical decisions he made to finish this painting. And it really gives it a rhythm. It gives it a motion. It gives it a direction. Like the whole picture is moving from one side to the other, which is really beautiful. This foreground of the tree that you almost don't even see. It's such a large, heavy, weighted object in this painting that almost to me would ruin this composition if I was thinking about it. But you almost don't even see it's there. It's a beautiful motion of foreground, middle ground, and background where the sky is. Even though it's all in a kind of a deep focus where everything is sharp. That big tree in the foreground almost just disappears. And you just kind of see past it looking along. And not only that, but it goes with the direction that the painting's going. You kind of have to see past the tree and move to the right. And you can see that for some reason the direction of the paint strokes really makes it feel like the whole painting is moving to the right. Or you can see the action of the painting moving to the right as that beautiful city just sits still at night under the moon. I love this painting. I think it's great. This painting was done in 1889 by Vincent van Gogh. This is a personal expression of Van Gogh's emotions. A little fact, Van Gogh was in an asylum when he painted this picture, so that's literally crazy. That's crazy. This kind of defined post-impressionism kind of showed like using these strokes, but in like a new way, not quite surreal yet, but a new way than the regular impressionistic paintings that we've seen out of Monet and Manet and things like that. Van Gogh struggled with mental health his whole life. You know, mostly we know that, and he famously cut off his ear after he got into a fight with, I believe, his brother, who was his agent, or maybe it says here he got in a fight with Paul Gogh. Anyway, Van Gogh didn't really get to appreciate the fame of a lot of his paintings. Although he was active as a painter, he had an agent. He was painting often. He was fighting mental illness the whole time. And you know, it is a cautionary tale that he leaves behind for us. Think about what he could have done if he was able to kind of maintain his mental illness. And these people don't create these wonderful pieces of art because of their mental illness. They're creating this art despite their mental illness. Don't forget that. You know, if he could have got past his mental illness, if he had the help, if he had the modern support systems that we had today, think of the amount of paintings he could have left on us. Not that he didn't leave a wonderful catalog, but you know, you just wish for people that you have respect for artistically, that they got the respect they need and they got the help and that they needed. Anyway, I love this painting. S tier, baby. That's our first S tier. Love it. Okay, moving on. Let's see what else we got. How about the persistence of time? Come on. This has been in every college kid's dorm room since we've been able to mass produce pictures. This is called The Persistence of Memory. I think The Persistence of Time must be a smaller painting that's just focused on the clocks. This painting is called The Persistence of Time by Salvador Dali. It was painted in 1931. It was supposedly inspired by Einstein's theory of relativity and melting cheese. So whatever that combination, that feels very Dali-esque. He blends surrealism, hyperrealism, and symbolism, trying to talk about the fluidity of time. He's trying to express the fluidity of time. Dali's eccentricity was legendary. He once gave a lecture in a diving suit and nearly suffocated. That's very Dali-esque. Cemented Dali as the face of surrealism, and he remains the defining image of that movement. And this picture is what we think of when we think of surrealism. It's beautiful. It's thought-provoking. The technique is phenomenal. The fact that it's got these almost photorealistic portions of the painting that we didn't see a lot before that. We didn't see this sharp focus in paintings before we started to getting into this surrealist movement. I love this painting. I love the techniques of this painting. Outside of the context of this painting, S tier. But like a lot of these paintings, you know what? They all are kind of cliche at this point. S tier. Dali, he's getting S tier. Dali's getting S tier. Because the technique is amazing and it's visually striking. And we all know it. I mean, faulting it for being popular, not this list. They're all popular. Okay, moving on. Next up, we've got, this is an amazing painting by Picasso. You know what, let's see, I think I had a high-res version of this. There it is, there we go. Look at this painting, it's beautiful. This is another just beautiful painting, it's so striking. This is such a lovely painting. And the best thing about this painting is that it has a message, it has a meaning, it has a reason. Like the motivation is very obvious, it's very modern, it's very important. This painting is called Guernica by Pablo Picasso, and it was painted in 1937. If you remember, if you think about it, 1937 it's right around when World War II really got popping. It was commissioned by the Spanish government to protest the bombing of Guernica. It combined cubism and stark symbolism to create a timeless anti-war statement. It was displayed at the Paris World's Fair. It became a global symbol of an anti-war message. And I think that's very beautiful that Picasso could put these pigments on canvas and give it to the government of Spain. And I believe this is hanging in a government room that they still use today. As a message of anti-war. I mean, look at the painting. It's almost abstract in its imagery, but it is provoking, it is grotesque, it is gory in a way, although there is no obvious blood, there is no obvious violence. The imagery is there. It's very obvious. It's very uncomfortable. And the fact that there was a moment in history where this person was able to interject this painting into culture and it say, hey, war is bad, and I'm able to get that point across. I'm able to get that point across through art. I mean, that's beautiful. We forget that that's what some of these things are for. Or art is to give a message when words don't say enough. And this is a great example of that, of really having a meaning in your art. And if you're an artist at home, or you're a writer or a musician, it's not always about like what you're writing or what you're painting. It's why. Who are you painting for? What are you painting for? You know, what is the larger message? What is the larger meaning? And very, very seldomly do we get the opportunity to kind of be that relevant. S tier. Picasso's going in S tier. I mean, just on message alone, you know, the fact that this painting says anti-war. Beautiful, beautiful. Moving on. Next up we've got, oh yeah, look at this, American Gothic. This is a really cool painting. Hey Siri, mute. Starry Night, Persistence of Memory, Scream, Birth of Venus, America. Okay. Alright, so this picture is American Gothic by Grant Wood. It was painted in 1930. This is a really gorgeous painting. Again, the foreground, middle ground, background composition is gorgeous. The portrait mode is really popping. I mean, it really makes sense. Like this painting has such a nice composition. Now it has a deep focus, and if it was a camera, it looks like a longer lens. The way it compresses the background, the way it does kind of get muddy if you think about it. Like that house is really muddying up the composition. And then if you also look over the top of her head, the shape of that tree kind of echoes the shape of her head, which is kind of it's a little confusing. It looks like a photograph taken with an 80 millimeter lens or something like that, fully lit. And it's got really soft studio looking lighting. It doesn't look like it really looks like a backdrop behind actors on a stage or something. You know, it looks very staged. This image was intended to celebrate and critique rural American life during the Great Depression. The father in this painting was actually the painter's dentist, and the woman in the painting is the painter's sister. And apparently neither one of them were very happy about it. I'm going to put this bad boy in D tier. Look, it's a wonderful painting. I'm sure the messages. Oh, kidding me. I'm sure was relevant for its time, but it's just not my favorite aesthetically. D tier. Master painting, but you know, they can't all be S tier. Moving on. Okay, next up, let's hit them with The Kiss by Gustav Klimt. Ooh, this is a beautiful painting. This is another one of my favorites. This was painted in 1907, 1908. Oh man, it's gorgeous. I love the use of the shapes, the abstraction, the gold, the passion, the intimacy in these two characters. It feels very personal. It feels very intimate. It feels like a human being looking at other human beings and painting them. It feels very much like what art feels like it should be. And it also feels like if you were to cover up their faces, and you might not even know. If you were to cover up their faces and just look at this painting, it just almost looks like a piece of abstract art. You know, it's this tiniest little piece in the middle where we really see our subject come to life. Otherwise, 99% of the painting is just abstract composition, and I really love it. I love the use of color. I love the use of shape. It creates a rhythm. It creates a tension. It creates like a music in the painting. I can see all the pieces and parts fluttering and moving and working together, and I get to see that very human element. I get to see that face. She's really just looking beautifully, loving the kiss that she's receiving on the cheek, and the posture. It feels very loving. It feels like a very loving couple. It really does. This painting has a lot of love in it. It's a very gorgeous painting. This is one of the paintings in Gustav's gold period. He painted a lot of similar paintings like this. I was lucky enough to see some of them in person, and there's a lot of them. And they hang together really wonderfully, and they're gorgeous. This garish gold is really just like beautiful. It's beautifully attacked. I think like the juxtaposition of abstract and realism, and also the visceral emotion that I feel from this painting. S tier. I just love it. I just think it's great. I'm sorry if there's so many in the S tier, but this is how I feel. I love this painting. I think it's really great. Thank you, Gustav, for giving us this. Moving on. And last but not least, Edvard Munch, The Scream. This is a very cool painting. It's very similar to Van Gogh's style and imagery. It kind of evokes a similar tone. It's a lot scarier. It's a lot warmer. Like the evening, that warm evening sky, and the screamer in the foreground. The warmth of this painting gives it an eeriness, an evil, a darker vibe, if you will. The Starry Nights the Starry Night's color combination of the blues and the warm yellows kind of feel nice and serene, and something that we feel comfortable, because I could look outside and see it. The color combination in this Scream picture is ugly. It's an ugly combination of colors. Do I dislike it? No, I love it. I think it's awesome, but it's ugly on purpose. And another thing that I learned about this painting over the years is that there are a lot of these paintings. This isn't the one Scream by Edvard Munch. He painted a lot of these Screams, and this just happens to be the most popular one. I saw a couple of the other ones, and they're bangers too. And the most beautiful thing about this, and like looking at the two characters in the background, kind of walking up the bridge here, like witnesses to this man screaming. I've heard that he's trying to invoke the feeling of a panic attack that he had. Like right now, this painting was painted in 1893. I'm not sure they would call it a panic attack then, but in hindsight, we know that what he described, an experience that he had during a sunset that he painted to kind of share with the world, so he could express himself how he felt, is what we would today describe as a panic attack. So the Scream by Edvard Munch is a self-expression of a panic attack, and I know there's people out there who have anxiety trouble, or may have social anxiety, or may have panic attacks. This is a beautiful realization of that energy, even that can be a very negative and a very bad feeling. This is a very great example of how some kind of negative energy can be turned around into something amazing. I mean, this picture has persisted for century, and it's powerful, and it's describing a panic attack, something that we've just learned to respect and understand recently. Do I love the visual images here in this painting? No. Do I love the color palette? Not really. Do I think that the technique is the best technique ever? No. But I identify with the message here. The fact that somebody was having a struggle with anxiety, and they were able to express themselves to kind of explain to others how they felt, and kind of make a piece of art out of what could have been just a moment of feeling alone and a moment of feeling negativity, and now it became this beautiful piece of art. S tier. I'm sorry, guys. It's got a beautiful motivation. If you have a tough time, or you're having anxiety, or you're feeling bad, express yourself through art. All of these pieces of art are a part of expression. The way Andy Warhol was trying to dumb down the appearance of art and kind of have it look at more marginalized areas of creativity and art. If you look at the artists that Andy Warhol supported, and like the painting of the Mona Lisa, how Da Vinci carried it around with him for 10 years, a decade, just painting on it, just at the end of the day, just so he could relax, just so he could feel good. He would sit down with this painting and just paint on it. From Van Gogh's Starry Night, where he painted it literally in a mental asylum. And if you look at something like Salvador Dali, like just looking at this picture on the face, you could see the chaos here, and the fact that he was trying to understand something like the theory of relativity from Einstein, like just shows an eclectic type of thinking. Moving on through the like we talked about, of Picasso making this anti-war message, and even though I don't have a deep understanding of the motivation of Gustav Klimt, I do know a little bit about the history and the way he worked with one of his most famous underlings, one of his most famous assistants is what's his name? What was Gustav Klimt's assistant's name, who went on to be an amazing painter of provocative nudes?
Gustav Klimt's assistant was Egon Schiele, who became renowned for his provocative and emotive nudes. Schiele's work is characterized by raw, expressive lines and an unflinching exploration of human vulnerability, sexuality, and psychology.
You can draw a direct line from from Gustav Klimt's work through to Egon's work. And Egon's main focus was on sex workers in Amsterdam. And he went to jail for painting pictures of nude women. And you could see like the beginning of that direction of art in Gustav Klimt's work that later went on to Egon Schiele, and he went to paint some of those most provocative paintings of sex workers in a way to just show, again, a marginalized group of people who were mistreated and almost meant to feel like they didn't exist. And this is a beginning of like giving those marginalized people a message, giving those marginalized people's message a voice. And then that comes back to the Scream, you know, where it is literally the expression of a panic attack. And I want to leave you with that. You having a tough day or like a tough week? You know, we all have ups and downs, but you could sit down and you could just write about it. You could draw about it. You could go outside and take some photos about it. Self-expression is the healthy realization of internal conflict. So when you feel that internal conflict, bad day, bad week, dealing with your job, fighting with your family, fighting with your friends, take it out on art and not yourself. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget, please hit the like button, subscribe, check out the links below. I'm a writer, a director, I'm an artist. I would love for you to check out some of the music that I've written. It's all streaming on Spotify. Go check out some movies that I've directed. Check out other art I've done, paintings. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Take care of yourself. Keep expressing yourself through art. Take it out on art, not yourself. See you next time. Moving on.